Cameron Crowe and Bryce Eveland here. We're going to talk about Bryce's Coal Valley story, but first things first, let's get you some context if you haven't seen one of these videos before. So I wrote a blog post a little over 2 months ago where I basically had a bone to pick with the way my high school kind of worked, but not just my high school. I went to Coal Valley Christian from kindergarten through senior year of high school. And I loved it when I left, but over the years that have passed, and it's been 11 years since I graduated, some of my memories started to take on kind of a negative hue to me. And I realized that there's some big issues with the way a lot of things that were handled in Coal Valley Christian, from the Coal Valley Christian I remembered. And I thought that this is a perspective that it would be beneficial if people knew about. And not saying this was true for everyone, but I wanted to say this to raise this perspective. And the more you know, I think the better decisions you can make as a parent, as an administrator, as a past student. I think it can only help. So I wrote this blog post. And people reacted very strongly in support and against this message. I thought it was kind of just going to blow over, and not many people would read it, but it blew up. And I started a support group on Facebook for people that wanted to share their stories that weren't comfortable doing that publicly. And it grew and grew and grew, and people told story after story after story, and now it has 150 people in it. And there's probably been about 50 or 60 stories. And then we started doing interviews, and there's a website now, coalvalleyspeaks.com, and interviews like this one are posted here. I think we're north of 20 interviews now. And we start in a while back, almost 2 months ago now, I think. Not quite, but we realized it was good to get this stuff off of our chest and to say what happened and to tell our stories. And that was really kind of validating and healing to be able to do that. But we realized that we don't have any reason to think that this stuff isn't continuing to happen. And we realized we should try to prevent some of these issues from happening to students that are still there or will be there soon. And we basically said we want to be a part of the solution. We wrote what we called the joint statement. We spent 100 hours and more than 20 people drafting this thing, where we basically categorize some of the issues and give examples, and then summarize the themes and propose solutions. And we have been trying to meet with Coal Valley Christian administrative leadership about this since it came out, and have not been successful yet. It's been really frustrating and disheartening. However, there may be some opportunities still. We haven't quite given up yet. And we had a meeting recently where some people from the support group got together. We might do more of these in the future, but just kind of giving everybody an update. And it's been pretty cool sharing these stories. So it's nice to kind of see people in person as well. So that is the context. So let's start, Bryce, with how did you first come across this stuff? Was it the blog post, and kind of what did you think when you saw whatever it was that you saw?
There's actually a friend that posted on Facebook, with the link to the blog post in there, and started talking about some stuff from them. And so I was like, wait, what is this? Because I didn't really know anything about it. I didn't actually read the blog post until after I joined. And so I went to try and join, and then you let me in. We had a little chat, and then went and read some of the stuff that people were writing on there, and it floored me, honestly. There was a lot of bad stuff that I knew that happened at Coal Valley. I saw quite a bit of it that never really got any publicity. But then seeing stuff like that, it was like there was a lot worse than anything I ever saw.
Yeah.
I saw bad things. I saw people do dumb shit, but there was a lot worse on that, and stuff that definitely had been swept under the rug.
Yeah. So how many years were you at Coal Valley, and what class were you? Give me some background.
I was class of 2017, and like a couple of others have done interviews here. We were all in the same grade. And so, I was 13 years. I went from kindergarten all the way up until senior year.
Wow. Okay. So So what of the stories, you said you were floored, what of the stories were you kind of like, yeah, I definitely like know what they're talking about. I remember that. I saw that. And what of it was like, wow, I had no idea.
Well, I mean, obviously a lot of them, because most people that are in there are alumni from long time before I was even there. Or I mean, if I was there, I was back to elementary school, so I didn't really know anything of who they were. I
Yeah.
mean, there were some that were in my own grade. I mean, there was a couple that were posted that I knew a lot of the stuff that happened, and I was well aware of all that stuff. I mean, there was definitely some in there that I didn't know, and there was some stuff that when like these people that I knew in high school were talking about, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that was happening to them, and that really sucked because I mean, the fact that those were people that I knew, they were people that I went to school with every single day for years, didn't know
Drives
anything.
it home.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot that they were like years before me, so I didn't know anything about it. But the fact that they were talking about it, and the fact that like some of the stuff they were talking about, it's like I've seen different versions of that. I've seen the same kind of thing happen before a bunch of times.
Yeah. What are some of these things that you've seen happen?
Well, definitely a lot when the girls were coming talking about how the dress code is really just kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, they were trying to say how you need to dress right because the guys can't handle it. When, I mean, if anyone's actually read the Bible knows for a fact that Jesus says, if your eyes are causing you to stumble, gouge them out. If your hand causes you to sin, chop it off. Like I understand didn't want people coming in thongs and whatever else, just naked. That would make sense. Like I don't blame that. But I mean, when they were that incessant about it to the point where girls like didn't even feel like they could wear what they wanted, they were forced to wear the outfits. I mean, I can't really speak much about that considering the fact that I'm a dude. I wore shorts and t-shirt year round. I was that annoying kid in winter. That was me. It didn't really affect me. But I mean, just seeing they were how they felt like kind of creepy around, or like some of the teachers were being creepy about it. And I mean, there was a couple of like one of the administrators, I even watched him and I was terrified of girls being around him too because he was terrifying.
What
Like
do you do?
the way he talked to girls looked like the kind of like predatory way you'd see on some Chris Hansen show. Like it looked like
Did you
he was
touch
just,
them or what was it?
he wouldn't touch exactly. Like sometimes he would hug or like put an arm around, but just like the way he like stared was just terrifying. Like, I mean, I think it was sophomore, junior year, one of the two. I was working as an office aide, fifth period, because I mean that's just where they put me because their scheduling is bullshit, and that's another topic. But so I was stuck in there. I was working in the office, like because the office ladies all loved me because I would take over for the office desk, and they would get to go lunch and whatever else. And so I saw him go have meetings with certain people and everything, and just the way he acted whenever it was a girl was just like it felt icky. Like there's no other way to describe it. Like I could just feel it felt kind of nasty, and I know I wasn't the only one that felt the same way about him.
Huh. Do you think that it was just like the appearance, or were there like, did other people have stories that kind of reinforced that?
Well,
Or
like just what I saw myself, and then there's multiple people that have said the same thing. Like I won't say names, but there
yeah.
are people that were in my grade. One of them, she was on his basketball team and refused to really do anything around him because of how unsafe she felt near him. And I don't blame her.
Hmm. Interesting. Um, yeah. So you said, I'm obviously a guy, so like I feel a little weird, diagnosing or, going deep
Yeah.
onto the dress code, but like, did you ever, was this, thinking about how the dress code might be bad for like girls' self-esteem, but also like that it was reinforcing like it's your fault if guys are out of line.
Yeah, which is the dumbest thing.
Like, did you realize that
yeah.
as
Yeah.
a student, or is that like kind of looking back?
Looking back a lot, like I saw a little bit there, but then looking back, like at the time, it was just what I was used to. I'd been there since kindergarten. It was just kind of how it always was, and I didn't really think about it. I mean, that's a lot of the things from Cool Valley. Like I didn't realize how weird or how bad it was about certain things till I got out and got away from it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's all I knew. I was stuck there. I never really had any other option. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that was all that I knew, so I wasn't that weirded out about it. It was kind of just like, okay, yeah, the dress code, that's just a thing that's there.
Yeah. What about what about would you say there are any other issues that like really stand out to you of like things that you noticed or that you would back up other people that said I have an issue with the way this happens at Cool Valley?
Yeah, well, I know one of the other girls talked about a little bit, like the like classes between like the really, really rich and the ones who aren't able to really afford it that well. I mean, my parents got a really good deal because my older brother went, he was 2014, I think. And it's like they got a deal on me being there because Talon was already there, which I don't know if anyone here knows my older brother Talon, but
I don't know him. I think I was 2008, so that was quite a bit earlier.
yeah,
But
he would have been what, a 7th or an 8th grader then. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that I've seen a lot of. I mean, working in the office, I saw plenty of parents come in and talk to administration, and then suddenly their kids were no longer in trouble. It's a weird concept. I mean, there was this one kid, I could not tell you his last name, but I won't say anything about him just because I'm not starting anything.
yeah,
But this kid got caught bringing multiple types of hard drugs like meth, acid, stuff like that onto school campus and got caught with it. There were 2 kids with him. One of them, they just got rid of him like he was kind of just in the wrong place at the wrong time. They sent him home. Another guy, they expelled, almost pressed criminal charges when he was just the one that was with the guy that brought the drugs. Guy who brought the drugs, his parents made a sudden donation and the kid got away with it. Didn't get any issue. And he did it multiple times. Like, this wasn't just like a one-off thing and then he learned his mistake. He kept doing it until his parents finally fed up. I think like halfway through the year, they sent him to military school because they were just not good parenting, but it's their own choice. And they were tired of him doing it over and over again.
do you have any idea how much they donated?
He always bragged about it too. Like, cause I knew that they did it and then he would tell it. He said it was something like 50,000 or something, which, I mean, holy shit.
Yeah. Wow.
No, because I remember it was around the same time that they bought the field outside the school, which was a really dumb purchase, and they're really bad with money. But they bought that, and then they were asking everyone for money, and then these people donated a bunch of money, and now their son was able to do whatever he wanted.
Did they? So they didn't press any criminal charges. They were just like, we're going to handle this on our own.
Yep, I can't remember what they said. It was talking about how it's like, this is our body of Christ. We need to want it as of Christ. Stuff like, I mean, this dude's bringing hard drugs. You wonder where he gets them from? Or you wondering what he's doing with them? Is he giving them to someone? Like, why would you just let that go?
Yeah. Yeah, there's some there's some verses, I think, I've been hearing people talking about, like, there's some verses that they like to use, like the Christian body, like, handles this internally. They don't go to the authorities. It's like some Matthew 18 or something, apparently. But that is pretty messed up. It's like you're trying to be, it just seems like not the right place of the school. Like, you don't get to decide what's like criminal and what's not, and like what justice is, and like all that.
Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot. They stick their nose a lot of times where it doesn't belong. I mean, this one they should have probably actually done something more of it. But I mean, there was a couple of dudes in my brother's high school, like his graduating class, that got caught smoking weed outside of school in the middle of break, nothing to do with the school. And then the school punished them for it. Like, had nothing to do with them, but they always just overreach because they always use the excuse of, oh, it's a body of Christ. We're all a family here. So you guys did something on your own time, completely away from us, that has nothing to do with us, but we're going to punish you for it anyway.
Yeah, sometimes I say that, like, Coal Valley is like totalitarian. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no, like, on your own time. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
Whatever is your life is like, has religious significance, and like everything is related to your faith. So like they're in everything.
Yeah. Oh no, I remember when they first started doing the laptop thing. It was I think like sophomore, junior year. They actually had everyone start bringing in laptops, and they actually were like using the laptops in class. It was really dumb and a waste of everyone's money. But one of the things they started doing was LAN school, which they can literally look at your screen, see exactly what you were doing. They were saying the fact that they could actually, like, they could only do it when you were on the school's Wi-Fi. But the fact that it was still watching what I was doing when I was at home on my own in private. I mean, I wasn't even doing anything bad. I think I was just watching like Netflix or something. But like it pops up and says, this isn't schoolwork. And I was like, the fuck you just say to me? Yeah. I was like, that's not okay. They're doing stuff like that. Like, and I honestly feel like if you were to look up something bad like porn or something, because they are really, really against that, they probably would have called you in the office and been like, hey, so we noticed what you were doing. And stuff like that.
That's like the Chinese government.
Yeah, no, they watch what you do and they don't let you have any freedom about it.
Yeah. That's really messed up. I didn't even know they do that.
No, they do it now. I mean, I turn mine off. All they can see now is 100% 24-hour roll of the Rick roll. I mean, it's a different laptop, but if any time they actually want to look at it, that's all they're going to see.
Nice. So these donations, I've actually heard that Coal Valley, like the way that you said they're bad with money, but like going back to the donation thing, like I've heard that actually in their budget, like they can't operate without extra donations. Like they don't make enough through like the tuition.
Yeah.
Like they have to get these special donations. And that's kind of one of the things that makes for this weird kind of like rich and poor, like
Yeah. I didn't
environment.
realize that was that bad. Like I knew they had a really, really shitty budget and weren't able to really afford a lot of things. And like donations, what gave them a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, Mr. Gabriel literally made that entire weight room what it is now. When it started out, it was nothing, but he put his own money into it to make it.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, he put a lot of his own money. I mean, they're rich and really good people. Like I really like Mr. Gabriel. He was one of the teachers I actually liked. But like he put his own money into that because he wanted people to have a place to work out that was safe and had good equipment and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, when they went and bought the whole, I don't remember how much it was. I think it was some big $1 million thing for the big plot of field across the way.
Well,
And then they found out they can't use, they bought it to be a football field. They can't use it for actual football because there's no plumbing. They can't actually, it's not the right size for it. Everyone in the neighborhood around complained because it made so much noise because the band would go out there. It was just dumb purchase. Like there was no point to it. Like I get it. They wanted it, but why?
what did they do? What do they use it for now? Did they sell it back or what?
Nope, they still have it. They put like some chains up around it. I mean, like just so people aren't driving their cars in there because people were doing that. But they have football practice. That's about it. But they still play all the games at Meridian High. They go out there for track and stuff. But I mean, they still have to go to a different field to actually do anything. So I mean, it's for practice, and that's about it.
That's really weird.
It's like it was fine, I guess. But they were also using other schools for that and didn't have to pay for that.
Yeah. You you mentioned you had your scheduling issue. You said that's another story. What? Talk to me more about that.
Oh, am I allowed to use the guidance counselor's name? Because I have my own issues with her.
Sure.
Yeah, Miss Overton. She was not a good guidance counselor. She's the one like if you read my post that I posted on Facebook, I about my parents during were going. It was one time to be at my house, and so for a while I actually lived out of my truck. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. I worked most days I worked most of the time I wasn't at school, so it was kind of just I'll take a nap, then go back to school and go to work. But because someone found out about it, she went and brought me in and like asked me about it, and because I needed to vent, and she was supposed to be a counselor, I went and told her about everything, and so she went and told the entire school about it, basically. So over the course of a day, when I asked her, "Hey, don't really tell anyone this, please. Like, I like to keep my issues private. I'm a private person. I don't really like people knowing my business." And so within a day, the entire staff knew about it and were giving me the, "Hey, how you doing?" And that pissed me off. But like the scheduling was just completely stupid. Like my junior year, I had a free period because she wouldn't let me go into a class. I tried to get because I had worked out a way. I went and found what other classes were at what times, and I worked out a schedule to where I could have had all the stuff done, and I could have gotten some of the mandatory ones that I had to get done. I was trying to make my senior year as easy as possible because I know how bad senioritis is. And so I was working my junior year to try and have all 7 classes, work my butt off, and get everything done beforehand. And I went and told her, I was like, "Hey, I have this perfect plan. The teachers are totally fine with it. There's no issue with it. They said, as long as you sign off on it, I can transfer to these classes and everything will go a lot easier." She wouldn't let me. Honestly, never gave me an actual answer. She just said, "Oh, I'll look into it." Never heard back. Went and asked her about it again like a week later. And she goes, "Oh, I'm still working on it." And it just never, and at that point, by the time I finally got back, she goes, "Well, it's too late in the year for this. So, I mean, we'll talk about it next semester." And I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I had this plan set up from freshman year of which class I was going to take when. So by the time I got to senior year, I could be like, just have the first half of the day and I could start working after that, which would make it a lot easier.
Why do you think she was like that?
I mean, I know she didn't like me because of my mom, but that I think is a dumb idea not to do something like that. Like my mom had my own issues with the administration. It was a long, long fight. I couldn't even tell you what it was about. My mom's just kind of dramatic like that. But because of that, she didn't like me, and I didn't really get along with her daughter a lot. We argued a lot because I thought her daughter was kind of dumb. I stand by that. I shoot straight. But like I went in and I was like I wasn't trying to start anything. I wasn't trying to cause any drama by moving. I was like literally just, "Hey, these classes work better for my schedule. Can I do this?" And she just didn't really want to help me. And as much as she's supposed to be a guidance counselor, the one that did the actual work was Sarah Wall. Like I know some people have had their issues with her, but I always liked her. I tell her what I needed done. She'd help me and we'd work together and get it done. And she wasn't even like, she was getting like Miss Overton was getting paid to be a guidance counselor when she was doing jack shit. She was doing all she was doing was sitting with her. What the fuck? Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, it's not dumb. Never mind. We're good. Just seeing someone text me that many times, I was making sure. But So she would literally just sit there, hang out with her kids, show them favoritism in the fact that like they would go hang out in her office with their friends, and then she would give them excused absences, like saying it was okay. When it's like they weren't doing anything, they were literally just sitting in there fucking around.
Yeah.
But
So, it's funny you mentioned, like you said that, because like I've had an interview where somebody was talking about like getting screwed over by a totally different guidance counselor in like my year.
yeah,
Like where they were like,
never seemed to be really good. That my brother had issues with the one before mine.
Weird.
Sorry.
No, take your time. Go ahead and check it.
No, it's something dumb. My girlfriend's just sending me memes. Nothing important.
Yeah, my phone blows up sometimes. I do not disturb for these. But.
Yeah, I just silenced mine. I told her I was busy, so I didn't think she'd text me.
Oh, yeah. So what options are there as a student if you feel like you're getting screwed over by, the guidance counselor or a teacher, like, is there any way to like escalate this to like be like, hey, this isn't fair, like can somebody help override her or something?
I mean, if you were on the basketball team, what's it called, the principal who was the coach would let you get away with anything, or vice principal he was. If you were one of like their favorites, like you had some sport or some money that your parents had, you could do whatever you wanted. But if you didn't, you were kind of fucked. Like you'd go and talk to her, and like, because at the beginning of every semester, I'm sure they had it there. You could go like, squad in, hey, I want to drop this class, add this class, swap it to this one, do something like that. You'd go do it, and they do their best. Like they honestly would, because I mean, they have probably like 200 kids coming every single semester to try and change all their classes. But if it didn't work out and they weren't able to, you could go be, hey, I kind of want this. And they're like, no. And that's about it. That's really all there was. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. The favoritism that happens at that school is completely wild.
Tell me about it. Let's do it.
Now, different thing. Had Mrs. Vice was the coach, and then Mr. B was the activities director. But then Mr. Molman left, and Mr. B kind of took over. But so Mr. B was boys basketball, Mr. Molman was girls basketball, and anyone that was on his team got whatever they wanted. I mean, the girls played him like a fiddle. It was bad. They would literally do whatever they wanted, and because they were Mr. Molman's favorite, they'd get away with it. No one could really get him in trouble, because if they did, they'd just send him to the office, and Mr. Molman would hang out and talk with them for a bit, and then they'd leave. That was it. They'd get whatever they wanted. I mean, the same way that it used to be. Oh, shoot, what was it? Sorry, I totally just lost my train of thought. I was going to talk about how.
Well, you're talking about favoritism and like basketball, girls, and just.
It was really like, I mean, I watched plenty of the kids do stupid shit, and like there was a lot of the people where their grades, it was supposed to be, I think it was, if you have a D or anything below, you aren't allowed to play any sports. There was plenty where, oh, well, this kid's working on it, he'll be fine, he'll get it done, but we'll keep him working because we're this close to state and stuff like that. But then came with the arts, because I mean, there was a kid in my in senior year, like the second half, I did theater for one semester, and it was super, super fun. But there was a kid, I love him to death, he was in my class, and he didn't have the good enough grades for it. And we were trying, like, our opening night was in a week, and the principal came in and was like, hey, you can't perform in this, like, you're not allowed to do it, you don't have a good enough grades for it. And so I mean, like, getting to see where it's the football people, because their like leaders are up in the administration, got to do whatever they wanted. But then because it's arts and it was just a teacher that's doing it, they were like, nah, okay, you have a D, you're not allowed to do it. Even though he was working to do it, he was working with the teachers to get his stuff done. I don't know, it was just a lot of stuff like that. And they just, like, they didn't really get like any like supers, like they weren't just getting A's or anything like that, but they just kind of got away with stuff.
That seems really unfair.
Yeah.
Do you think, did they ever, bring that up? Like, well, what the hell? Like, those basketball players didn't matter for them.
All you want. I even mentioned it a couple times about how, like, some of the basketball girls would come hang out with Mr. B or Mr. M, and then they would get an excused absence. And I was like, why is that excused? Like, they weren't like talking to you about anything important. They were literally just small chat. Why does that get an excused? And he would go, oh, well, we just don't want it to ruin their studies. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, they missed class. They weren't there. That's their fault. Weird. Like, yeah, if they were like talking about some big trip or something that was doing for like bonding, a team bonding or something, that'd be one thing. But like, they were literally just talking. That was it.
Wow.
And I mean, then there's the other side, because swim team. I was swim team 4 years in a row.
They have swim team now?
It was me. That was it. My freshman year, I had Luke Weisinger with me. And then I had my sophomore year, I had two people with me. Then my junior, senior year, I was completely alone. But I made it to state. I made it to district my freshman year, made it to state the next 3 years, but they never once mentioned it, which I thought was kind of stupid and unfair. That's just my own little opinion because I was the swim team. Like, unless it's their big three sports, they really don't care.
You know, there's some story, I don't know if you noticed it in the support group, but one of the members was talking about how the boys basketball team was kind of like everybody cared about them. They made all these special arrangements for them, but actually the girls volleyball team had just gone to state and they didn't get any, like, no attention at all, even though the boys basketball team didn't even go to state. Like, they got. Oh
yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, when I was still around, there was quite a bit about the girls volleyball. I mean, like, they were doing good. Like, I'm not saying like they shouldn't have gotten anything like that, but they really, really only favorited the big three, which at my time was basketball, volleyball, and football. I mean, they would talk about football constantly. Like, my junior year, I made it to state and actually broke technically a school record. I mean, it's Coal Valley. There really wasn't that many school records, but I broke one, and I thought it was a cool thing, and I made it to state and did pretty good. And no one actually talked about it, but they talked about how football got beat 10 times in a row because that year they did god-awful. They were terrible. Huh. And it was just a lot like that, like, because those are the big three sports. Those are the one that they care about because people pay a lot of money to play or whatever else, and so that's what they actually cared about, and they'll talk about that all the time. Even if they're not doing good, they'll tell it every single morning in the announcements, this team's going over to this place to play, and then the next day, this team got their butt kicked, but you know what? We support them, and that was it.
Yeah, wow. What else? What else kind of do you remember? I know you had a list. Like,
shoot, let me pull it up real quick. So I wrote it down because I'm really, really, really hard to keep things in track. Oh, yeah, the one that I want to talk about was, I think her name's Abigail. She's the one in the group that's currently going to Coal Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, she brought up ethics class, and I'm not sure how it's like now because my ethics teacher is gone now. She left, I think, my senior year. But, like, beforehand, I'm assuming it's probably still the same because it's just one of the classes that everyone read years. But with, I won't say her name because I actually like her as a person. It made me dislike her, but there was a lot that was bad about it. Like, me and one other kid that was a grade above me, we were playing devil's advocate in that class the entire time because everyone else didn't really care enough. She would sit there and say, okay, so if you're gay, you're more likely to get AIDS, sexual transmitted diseases, and die, and then go to hell and all that stuff. I mean, she once told one of the kids in my class that his brother was going to hell because he lived with his fiance before they were married. Like, it was just stuff like that. Like, she was just throwing everyone in hell for no reason. I mean, like, I can honestly admit, back when I was younger, I was very, very anti-gay. I didn't know better. I mean, I was raised in Coal Valley until, Annabelle, one of the other ones that did an interview, I remember once back on Facebook, she posted something about gay rights, and I, attacked her about it. I mean, I feel bad about that now, but it's how I was because that's the way Coal Valley raised me. I didn't, honestly, I don't think I ever met anyone that was actually gay until I got out and started working my ass off every day after school.
Mm-hmm.
And, because of that, there's a lot that I have said that I wish I could take back and a lot of stuff that I wish I could take back that I'd already done. But because of that, I've grown up a lot and I've seen a lot of the brainwashing that happens from younger ages. I mean, like I said, I was there 13 years. I was literally born in it and constantly living around it. If you're gay, you're going to hell. Yeah, if you have sex before you're married, you're going to burn up, your dick's going to fall off and stuff like that.
So what do you think if people, some people have told me, and I make the same, I say the same thing. I regret the decisions that I made, but and I take responsibility for them. But I do realize that I was a kid and I was taught that this is the way it is. And then some of people that are just trying to, argue with me were kind of like, well, I think that's a you problem. That's not a school problem. What do you think? What do you make of that criticism?
No, I've definitely been told the exact same thing before. Because there's a couple people that I did a lot of bad things. I was not always the best kid. I still am, not by their standards at least. And so I did a lot of dumb things. I tried to come back later and I'd be like, hey, I am very sorry about the way I acted. And a lot of times people be like, yeah, it's your own fault. It's yeah, in a way, yeah, it was something that I did. I personally am the one who did it. But at the same point, when I'm raised that way my entire life, to believe things that way until I finally get out and realize the world's not so black and white as they try and paint it out to be, all I can say is I'm trying to become a better person. I'm trying to be a better person than the way they raised me, but there's still a lot of stuff left up in my head. I mean, there's a lot of times I'll think something in my head and be like, oh, that person's so bad. And I'm like, wait, the fuck am I saying? No, that's a good person. I'm not judging. Why do I care what they do with their life?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's the way Coal Valley raised you. I mean, for a religion that says they shouldn't judge anyone because, I mean, how can you judge or what's it? Something about a sliver in someone's eye when you have a plank in your own.
Yeah.
I can't remember the actual one. Yeah. And like I am still religious, but it's more out of spite of Coal Valley than because of Coal Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Like Coal Valley is the place if you want your kids to not be religious, that's usually a surefire way to make sure they're not. Because I mean, if you live in a place where everyone is constantly like, it's either you're a Christian or you're not, and if you're not, we hate you type mentality, you're either going to fake it and then become like resentful of what you're doing, or you're going to fake it until you get there, until you're done, and then you just kind of forget it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think there's some stat, and I haven't found it, but somebody was telling me that their dad is, very religious, and he found this statistic that's like 80% of kids that go to like religious schools like leave the faith or something like that.
No, I believe it. I still have a lot of issues with organized religion. Like I still consider myself religious, and I still work on stuff, and I still read my Bible, and I pray and learn all that stuff. Just because personally, I think it is something like that. But a lot of churches, and because of Coal Valley, a lot of things like that I can't trust. Because I mean, how can you trust someone who's going to tell you, oh yeah, you need to do this with your life, when they're taking bribes from everyone else to do bad things, and say, yeah, no, it's okay. Like I have a lot of issues with it because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy. So you're talking about ethics class, and the teacher was kind of just like spewing a lot of like unnecessary judgments and opinions on the students, and not just teaching material. They're just basically like making these claims.
Making claims, and then there was teaching material. There was books that were literally, if you're gay, you're going to hell. Like they were talking. I think I've kind of repressed that part of my memory because that was just a weird class to be in. But like there was a straight up book that was just talking about all the reasons that it's bad to be gay. Like I mean, like that wasn't the entire book, but that was a straight 2 chapters of it. Wow. And then there was a lot talking about abstinence only, which is a very dumb way to teach kids and doesn't ever actually work. But it was just like, what wasn't just the entire class was actually like focused on that. Like her beliefs may have been radical, but the class, like all the teaching materials that she had, supported what she was going through.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I remember she pulled up an article. It was back when there was a gay couple that went to a like wedding shop, like a cake shop.
Oh yeah, this was like a big lawsuit, I think.
Yeah, no, because they refused to serve them because they were gay. And then she pulled out that article, had us all read it, and then she tried to give us our opinion. She tried to tell us what was the right way to believe. And she was trying to say how we shouldn't fraternize with people that are like that believe that kind of lifestyle is okay. And I mean, like, I don't know how anyone can have a religion that would hate someone like that. And like, I don't know how anyone could, especially Christianity, because I mean, if you go look at what Jesus did, like what on earth ever makes you think that's okay?
Yeah.
Like it was just stuff like that. Like she pulled it, and like, a lot of that class was her telling you what your opinion was. You didn't really have a chance to vocalize it. I mean, I did a lot, and it made her dislike me a lot more. Like she liked me when I was younger, because I mean, she was friends with my dad's years and years ago. But they were like, she liked me when I started out, and then that class, because I would be kind of like, no, like I don't think that's right. Like I disagree with what you're saying, and like I'd be able to back it up. I'd be able to talk about it and actually get the class to listen to me. And so with the other guy, like I said, there was an upperclassman that was in that class who would do the exact same thing. But for the most part, people in that class were just kind of like, okay, yeah, it's more hate on the gays. It's more hate on having sex, hate on anything like that. And they kind of just let it happen because they didn't really care at that point, because it's so a normal thing at that school.
So do you think you said like she's telling you what your opinion should be? Do you feel like there wasn't enough critical thinking in that school?
There wasn't enough chances to. Like the way they set it up was that there wasn't the chance for you to actually think about it. It was her saying what is right, and then she moves on to the next chapter before you actually have a chance to think. And it was a lot of that, which is definitely not okay.
What about in other classes?
Well, another one that I had an issue with was Worldviews. Like the teacher, I definitely respect him as a person. I mean, there was a lot of times where I came through and asked him questions. Like there was one I asked, like, do you think God does miracles in like a supernatural way, or in the way that like would still apply to the laws of physics? And like, it was just like a genuine question, because I'd have questions and I'd like to learn more. And so I asked him about it, and like, he actually went, you know what? I don't know. Like, give me a week or two and I'll go look it up, and then we can talk about it. And like we did, and he was super awesome about it. But then there was a lot of like, it's supposed to be worldviews. Like the way the classes like talked about, you assume it's going to be, you go and you learn about Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, other religions, other worldviews, which would make sense. But instead, a lot of it ended up being, hey, this is my worldview and this is the right worldview, and that's that.
So you didn't talk about those religions, or?
I think he talked about Buddhism for like a day or two. And from what I understand, like, I mean, I'm not a very scholarly person on that. A lot of it didn't really sound that right. I mean, there was a couple people in my classes that knew about that stuff, and they were even saying, yeah, that's a little off. Like, some of it was right, but some of it was a little off. And that was about the only one we did. I think other than that, I don't think we talked about any other religion. I mean, there was a little bit about Mormonism, because that's a whole thing, but it really still wasn't that in depth. And that was maybe 1 or 2 days out of the entire year.
How was Mormonism kind of treated?
It's treated like a cult. It's treated like a lot of brainwashing, which I think is really ironic coming from them. Like, I mean, I don't know about Mormonism. I live with a Mormon, or an ex-Mormon, who's very, very anti-religion because of it. And I mean, that dude would go off for about 20 hours about how bad it is, which I wasn't there. I'm not here to judge.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff like that where they will talk about religions as in why they are wrong, which shouldn't be how you're teaching someone. If you're going to teach someone about a religion, it shouldn't be, hey, this is why this religion is wrong. It should be, hey, this is what they believe, this is why they believe it, and this is that. Like, you can make your own judgment about people, but I don't think it should ever be taught in an opinion way like that.
Right. So, like, give us the facts. Like, tell us kind of like what are the foundational things of it, and then like,
Yeah,
you can arrive at your own, views on it.
Which is the way I feel like that kind of class should be taught. Ethics and that as well. Like, because you can't just go in and tell someone, hey, this is what this religion believes, this is what you should believe about it. It should be, hey, this is what they believe. I mean, if you guys want to go into that, because there's a lot of people in my grade who were considered themselves more Buddhist than Christian. Because it was a religion they actually identified with more. Because, I mean, it was one that didn't spew as much hate as Coal Valley did.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does give a lot of bad rap to Christians at Coal Valley, because the fact that a lot of the Christians you're going to see are the type that are saying, yeah, you suck, you're bad, I'm better than you because I am a Christian, which is not the way to do it.
So were these people that like really like Buddhism, like, was that out in the open? Like, were they, or was that just kind of like, I kind of like those things about that or whatever?
I mean, it was more of that. Like, I talked to some of them like by myself, and they were more than open and willing to talk about it. But like in the class, they wouldn't really bring that up. And I can't say I blame them.
You think they would have gotten shot down or something?
I feel like they would have been judged more than anything. Like, I don't think anyone really would have like attacked them. I mean, you could talk to, there was a girl in my class and a guy who was like years and years before. He wrote a like 20-page essay to get out of Miss Herring's class because she hates Catholics. Like, I have never seen anyone bag on Catholics more than her. She talks about like the stuff that the Catholic Church did with the Crusades and all that stuff, and she'll talk about that as if like that's what Catholics still do to this day. They go in and just pillage countries. Like, there was a kid in my class, like we grew up together back through elementary school, and I think it was like 8th grade or so. He had to write a whole essay about why he did not want to be in her class anymore after hearing some of that. It was not good. I mean, it's in the same
20 pages.
What? Yeah, 20 pages. And I read it, and a lot of it was him saying like this is what I believe, like whether you guys believe it or not, like this is what I believe and I stand for this, and I'm not going to sit in a classroom with someone who's going to sit there and bag on it for hours and hours.
How did they react to that?
The school or
Yeah.
the teacher?
Yeah,
the teacher didn't like him for a while, but the school, I mean, after they said that, I mean, he made some good points, and they just took him out of the class. He went and did like an online history class for that year.
Wow. Good for him.
Yeah, no, I respect that. I was like, I mean, I'd never realized how bad it was until after I read his article and like actually looked at it, and I was like, oh shit, you're right. Like, I mean, like I wasn't Catholic. I never really thought anything. Like, I also wasn't thinking of it as a religion. I was thinking as like a group of people that were doing really shitty things.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I said it, you started thinking, I'm like, yeah, no, she really does just say that all Catholics are that way. All Catholics are crusaders and all that stuff.
Wow. So it sounds like there's been like, you experienced some people, like standing up and speaking out, and like, there was some critical thinking. Like,
yeah.
You think that was despite the school, or were they actually, raising like, were these kids standing up and speaking out because this like against the system, or was the system actually working and creating some critical thinkers?
I feel like it was the other way around. I feel like it was, this school was just meant to kind of brainwash you and let you sit there and do whatever it is they're telling you to do. Mm-hmm. And then some people were like, you know what, I've had enough. I'm not going to do that anymore. Yeah. And like, that's the kind of people that would stand up. I don't think there was anything the way the school set up that built critical thinkers. I mean, I think I had one teacher really that like or there was a couple that like encouraged me to actually think critically about stuff. Like one was a history teacher, one was an English teacher, and those were probably my favorite ones. I mean, one of them I still see once or twice a month just because I still enjoy talking to her.
So what do you think Coal Valley's saying internally about Coal Valley Speaks?
I could tell you what they're saying. I talked to that teacher a lot. She's
tell me.
It's called. So I texted her like after I first found out about it and talked about it. And like, so we text each other every once in a while, like see how she sees how I'm doing. I check how the school year's going and all that stuff. And we'll meet up occasionally. Like, cause she was like a mom to me. She was the teacher that was really, really close to when I was going through my parents' divorce. And she was just really there, an amazing person.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's one of the teachers that I genuinely think actually cares about the students, which is a lot. It's something that I really respect. But like, so I was talking to her about it and I was like, hey, so do you know anything about the Coal Valley support group? And the way, shoot, let me actually pull it up. I think I still have that text saved. But basically what she said was like, yeah, no, they told us this is something small and not that significant. There's really nothing big about it. It's just some people having some gripes about a school. And so I was kind of like, I don't think you know what's actually in there. Because like I know this teacher, and if she would hear, especially about like the people that have dealt with the assault and everything like that, I don't think she could hear that and still work there. So I think 100% that they're hiding how bad it really is and like what the stuff's actually there from the teachers. Because I mean, there's some that probably would just brush it off as, oh yeah, they're just mad that they had a bad school life or something like that. But there's a few there that probably would 100% quit on the spot if they saw some of the stuff that was there.
Wow.
I can't find it. Yeah, no, what was it? Yeah, no, she says, I asked, so what do you think about it? She said, they don't have much is what we've been told. We were told not to engage, so we'll see what happens. So they were told 100% to avoid this, to not do anything about it and not talk to anyone and not try and learn anything about it. They were told to kind of just sit there and, yeah, no, it's not a big deal. They were told it wasn't anything big and that it'll blow over probably.
So were you like, well, I think it's a little bigger than that? And like, did you say that and did she respond to that?
Yeah, I was like, it's definitely like it's not just some small. It's not it's gonna about a team. Like, hey, there's some stuff, and she goes, yeah, well, I don't want to know about it. I think like I love her to death, but I think that one's just because the fact that the school's so they're anti the teachers actually knowing what's going on. Oh, one sec. I need an interview. Sorry, roommate's coming home.
You're good.
This is my roommate Zach.
Hi.
I don't know if I was on camera.
You were.
Wow. So they must have been told not to look at it or not to like, not only not to talk to them, but like not even to read it or anything.
Yeah.
Because especially if that's like a teacher that cares and like.
No, this is a teacher that like I actually would go in and talk to outside of class because she was someone that cared. The fact that she doesn't care about this just doesn't seem right to me.
Like doesn't add up. That's like she's been told, you know, like nobody's allowed to look at this.
Which like I don't get that. Like because I mean that must be what it is because there's no way like this teacher and there's a couple other there that I actually think would care. And there's people that would like if they were to know what's on here, there's no way they would speak quiet about it. I'm not sure all of them would quit, but I feel like they would at least like join us and start actually trying to get a change done.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been really disappointed. I've been trying really hard to like do interviews with teachers and people that support the school and like let's just have like let's share all the perspectives, you know, for and against, and you know shades in between, and just like talk it out and see what we find. But like nobody's talking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of teachers are probably scared of it. I mean, Garrett Hester, he was a kid he left our senior year, but he graduated the same year. He was one of my friends since like way back in elementary school. But his stepdad's mom worked at the school years ago. Frandon was the last name. I don't know her first name. But she worked as a teacher, and then there was a student who had a bad grade, and the administration kind of said like, hey, give this kid a good grade, give this kid a passing grade. And she told him, no, I'm not going to do that. Like this kid didn't do the work. Like if he's willing to come in and do the work, we'll do it. But I'm not just going to give him an A for no reason. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, she was fired. Wow. Like I'll see if I can get in contact with the stepdad and get in contact with her. And so we can
I'd love to chat with them.
She will literally kill Brad Carr if she gets the chance. She was not happy. The last time I talked to her, I asked her about it because like, she knew I was still going to Coal Valley. And she was not happy. And I don't blame her. I would be too if I got fired for doing my job.
Yeah, like not not doing something like unethical.
Yeah. Like, dude, if a kid doesn't do the work, he doesn't deserve the grade. Like, that's straight up. I mean, there was quite a few bad grades I got, but it's not like it was a teacher's fault. I was just being a dumb shit.
Yeah.
Like, there was quite a bit of homework I should have done, but.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that, and well, it sounds like maybe nobody in the school is really allowed to watch any of this stuff, but like, let's assume that they do watch this interview. Like, what message do you have to Coal Valley administration?
The administration have a lot that, like, you need to stop caring about the money and start caring about the kids. There's so many times where they care more about the money they get to actually keep the school running, and they say they're more worried about that because of the fact that, oh, that money will keep this school open so we can help more kids. But it's like, all you're going to care about is money. Like, there's so many kids that have a lot of issues. Like, there's kids that were bullied. There's kids that were treated like crap. There's kids that are going through a lot of rough stuff at their own house, and this is the one place they're supposed to go and feel safe. But instead, they're ashamed about it. I mean, there's a lot of parents who are divorced there, and the school is very, very anti-divorce. And they're very, very against. I mean, my mom, I have my issues with her. We're working on our own stuff ever since their divorce. But she said she was at a restaurant with her friend, and they were out, and they ran into Miss Demain, Miss Wall, and I think Miss Overton. And all of them gave her the cold shoulder because of the fact that she got a divorce and it went badly. Like, I don't know how they can do that, considering the fact my mom's been part of that, like, helping out and volunteering, like some of the moms that do all that stuff since before I was even there. Like, my brother and me both went for 13 years. So, I mean, she's been there for years, knows all of them. They all know her, but they all refuse to talk to her because of the divorce. Like, they don't care about the people as much as they claim to. Like, I mean, they talk about how they're trying to build a future for the kids, but if they don't give them an actual safe environment where they feel like they can actually grow as people, like, stop trying to force it down someone's throat. If they're not ready to be, if they're not religious, if they aren't open to it, don't force it. Like, talk to them about it. Maybe learn more. Maybe they'll come to it. Maybe not. But if you try and force someone into religion, all you're going to do is make them hate it and not actually feel anything for it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Like, chapel was a big thing. Like, there's a lot of issues with that because, I mean, towards my senior year, I started bringing a bed and like a mattress and sticking it to the bed of my truck because it seemed like a better use of my time to go take a nap or read a book or do some homework than actually go to chapel. It's just thing bringing like old students and stuff, and like our current students, they're like, yeah, I grew up in a Christian home, never really had an issue, so you guys should be Christians. And that's about it. That's about as much content as you get, except they spend 40 minutes saying that.
Wow. Yeah, and I don't blame you then. Okay, what message do you have for like parents that are thinking about putting their kids in Coal Valley?
I think the teachers are what's the best part about Coal Valley. Like, there's some teachers there that will genuinely help your kids, and they're going to be there to support them and help them grow. Because, I mean, like, I was dyslexic, so English was the bane of my existence. And so, like, that teacher that I really liked, she was an English teacher. She cared about me. She would sit down, and, like, she knew I knew the content. I just couldn't really put it to words. And so she would sit down and just talk with me about it, and then would give me a grade on an essay, even though I was just speaking to it. Like, there's such great teachers there and people that actually want to help. If we can get things worked out with the administration where they actually start building an environment that the kids can be happy and actually learn in a safe way, then it would be a great spot to send your kids. But as of right now, I'd send them anywhere else.
Yeah. And what message do you have for current students?
Keep your head up. It sucks. It's a really, really bad environment to get in. And I know everyone talks about high school is the best years of your life. Once you get out, it's going to get a lot better. You're going to lose a lot of those friends that you were with just because the fact that you saw them every day. And you're going to find new friends and people that actually support you. And for anyone that's closeted there, I can't imagine how hard that would be. But just, I know you'll find good friends and people that'll actually help you and be there for you.
Yeah. Bryce, thanks for sharing all that. I think that's, you were saying, I don't think I'll have really anything that interesting to share, but actually a lot of that stuff I never heard before. This was really valuable. I think.
I'm glad I could help.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Talk to you later.
Yeah, bye.